Everything you do right now feels pointless because everything you do is for someone else. I know exactly how that feels, waking up every morning having to commit to another day of watching the clock count down until you can inevitably crawl back into bed where no one can disturb you. It's normal to feel like everything is pointless, and I promise you nothing is wrong with you for feeling that way. This world is set up to feel pointless. That's the society we've built ourselves, a society that only seems to reward productivity. But the fact that you're searching, the fact that you're asking why already sets you apart because my friend, every good thing starts with asking why. Now, what you're feeling right now is a very human response. And from me to you, you're not supposed to care about anything. I say from me to you because most people wouldn't give you that advice. But why the hell should you care about shit just because other people before you have cared about it? You have to find your own meaning. And the very idea that we're supposed to care about certain things is the thing that makes us feel guilty, is the thing that makes this feeling so much worse. And this is made even harder by the fact that we're all sent off into the world with these high expectations. We have our teachers hyping us up in school. We have these careers classes where we dream about all the things we're going to be when we get out of school. And then when we get out, we realize we're just a cog in a system that we don't want to be a part of. And all we want to do is escape. If you're anything like me, you have to put in some extra effort to find the things you care about. And in some cases, a lot of extra effort. Now, that's especially difficult when you're young because you're spending a lot of your time doing shit for someone else. Someone else's business, someone else's goals, someone else's life you have to force yourself to be a part of. Nothing ever feels meaningful to you because you're always doing, never taking the time to figure out what you want to do and what you like, never taking the time to just be. I was chatting to one of my readers this week who made a great point that life is without a point A and a point B. It's about doing and being simultaneously. If life feels empty for you right now, it's because you're putting far too much emphasis on getting from point A to point B, partly because you have to, and far too little emphasis on the being, the taking the time for yourself, the figuring out what you like and what you want. Now, that's through no fault of your own. Our world is set up to keep you doing, to keep you chasing. Because if you're not chasing, that means you're not buying. And if you're not buying, that means the people who are making a profit off of you start making less of a profit off of you. Simply taking the time to be is bad for the economy. That's why the world's greatest minds are working on social media algorithms and putting billions of dollars into advertising to make sure you can't allow yourself to be. And this is why you feel empty when you realize a life of buying, a life of chasing, and a life of being part of the system this society is built around isn't for you. Because when you take a step back from it all, you see how deeply life is built around all these things. And if you want to find fulfillment elsewhere, good fucking luck. So why am I telling you to allow yourself to just be if it's bad for the economy? Well, screw the economy. And you know what? Screw a lot of other things too. If you want to get to a point where your life has meaning and value again, then you have to start being selfish with the resources that allow you to care. Now, people react quite strangely when I tell them that selfishness is a trait you should strive for, and I understand why, but you have to hear me out on this. It's not about being a selfish person, it's about being selfish with your time, your energy, and attention. So you can be, so you can think, so you can make it exciting to get out of bed in the morning. Being selfish with these resources is the only way you can go deep enough to make the changes you need to make. Because if you're not selfish, then you can't make the changes, then your life remains shallow and meaningless. Now, I could have easily just said, if you want a life you enjoy, you have to go out and find your passions, but this is the stuff that comes way before the passions. When you give yourself the time to think, when you have the energy to think deeply, and when you have the attention to actually focus on the things you need to change, that's when your passions arise. And there's a funny thing about this selfishness that's required to get to that point. The selfishness that's required to go deep into your own mind in solitude is usually what ends up meaning the most to others when they're presented with whatever it is you've come up with. I wrote the article for this video because I shut myself off from the world to do so, and I do that a few times a week. That's quite selfish, don't you think? Well, it doesn't seem that way when a reader emails me telling me that something I've written has resonated deeply with them. And I'm not saying that to brag, I'm just saying that because that's the clearest example I can give you that safeguarding and being selfish with your time, energy, and attention can actually be meaningful to others. But it's nothing compared to how meaningful it'll be for you. So please, please, please try and be a little bit more selfish. I promise it will make life feel worth living again. Good luck with whatever journey you're on, and thank you so much for watching.